My 48 female, sister Carolyn, 45, has spent the past 20 years bragging that because she's 10 years younger than her husband Ethan, 55, by the time she hits 40 plus, Ethan's drive will have plummeted too low to pursue others, and the 20-somethings won't want to date men past 35. Ethan was 34, and my sister was a week from turning 24 when they officially got together. At the time, 34-year-old Ethan was a newly minted senior VP with a 35-year-old wife, Emma, and a preschool-aged daughter. Ethan told my sister that Emma became a sanctimonious mommy type after she gave birth, stopped waking up at 5 a.m. to exercise, withheld it, and became a negative, nagging shrew. Ethan physically left Emma for Carolyn, but Emma was the one who filed for divorce. Carolyn was angry because she claimed Emma was the one who filed for divorce, yet she's the one who became bitter and hostile after the divorce happened. For a while, I sympathized with Carolyn because everybody criticized her relationship. However, I felt like Carolyn and Ethan made it a fact that Ethan was punching above his weight regarding having a younger woman, their entire personality as a couple and individuals. I think it's because Ethan was poor into his early 20s and said he thought the best he could ever do was the sort of attractive, after a few beers, truck stop waitress. Back then, it was much easier for somebody with no connections to rise, and Ethan did. Then after his divorce, and before marrying Caroline, Ethan started his firm and began making even more money. Carolyn signed a prenup, but maintained that it would never be used. Carolyn used to laugh when ex-wife Emma told her that there are always younger women out there. Carolyn replied that she had asked Ethan, and he said that a 10-year age gap is gigantic to him, and that Carolyn was the combination of somebody who he'd always see as much younger, while also being able to relate to her. In a place where her stepdaughter could hear her saying it, Carolyn would also say that Emma has aged so much faster than Ethan, and that she's likely regularly mistaken, referred to as her daughter's grandmother. All this about "he will always see me as much younger" disappeared a few years ago. Carolyn started becoming very withdrawn and miserable. She'd act out in ways, but Ethan wouldn't even bat an eye at her antics. Then suddenly, just before the holidays, Ethan picked a fight by telling her her hand mannerisms are annoying and left the house. She found out he was living with a 24-year-old assistant he hired without experience. Now, despite texts saying their 3 kids miss him and she doesn't deserve this when she's never denied him intimacy, he's filed for divorce. Carolyn came to me crying and would go on rants about how Ethan would realize the 24-year-old sees him as grandpa. I rolled my eyes and said, "What did you expect, sis?" And that I had no sympathy when for years I've had to listen to her saying age gap detractors are bitter losers and that Ethan will always see her as a prize. I also told her that 10 years is barely the starting point when it comes to the trophy wife relationships. She got angry and said she's still the youngest Ethan will ever get for a long-term relationship, and that her qualities should make him come back to her. I said, "Yeah, sure." And she screamed, "Are you calling me old when Ethan's pushing 60? And left. Am I the idiot for asking my sister, "What did you expect?" after her husband left her for a younger woman? Not the idiot. Every mistress is convinced she's the exception, not the rule. She's delusional. There is an endless supply of 20-year-olds who would jump at the chance of marrying someone with money and living an easier life. He is a type. She's now realized a little too late, however. Exactly. She's deluding herself into thinking Ethan gives a crap about long-term relationships, especially since he has no problem trading in for a newer model every 20 years or so. He's going to ride this new one until he's around 70 or 80, and then at that point, throw off the pretense entirely and just hire sugar babies for companionship or import a trophy wife from a developing country. It's clear he doesn't care about family at all. Yep, my late stepmother saw my father as a stable person who could take care of her. At least that's how it looked to me. She was 23, he was 44, and I was 16. She was wife number 3. He kept being a man-child, and she had to become the adult in the relationship. I'm not sure why she stayed. She must have loved him. We lost her to a tragic accident last year. Father had not paid a bill in years, and most accounts were in her name. Poor delusional lady, but she was an excellent stepmom to me. Oh, I'm sorry for your stepmom. Ethan told her that Emma became a sanctimonious mommy type after she gave birth and became a negative nagging shrew. And Carolyn believed that? LOL. Now she knows why he left his first wife. And you are not the idiot for saying what you did. She forgot the old saying, if he's willing to cheat with you, he'll cheat on you. She should have known this day was coming. I have a significant income and expect it to grow more in the coming years. My investments will also mature, making me reasonably wealthy. I'm emphasizing this to highlight that in the event of a divorce, I have a lot to lose. I've told my fiancé several times that I won't marry without protection or guarantee for my financial future. He agreed then, but now I think he just said what he needed to convince me to accept the marriage. He probably didn't think I was serious, but I certainly was. I've discussed this with my lawyer, who drafted an excellent prenuptial agreement based on my concerns. She even suggested adding an infidelity clause, something I hadn't thought of but readily accepted. I discussed this with my fiancé and told him to review the agreement with his lawyer to see if we could reach mutually acceptable terms. He was very offended that I even felt the need for one. To say he got upset would be an understatement. He was particularly offended by the infidelity clause. I certainly didn't expect this reaction from him. However, in the end, he agreed and signed. His reaction is making me have doubts. Before signing, he claimed that I wasn't respecting our relationship and expecting him to fail, which is not true. However, life is unpredictable and anything can happen at any time. So I'm just trying to protect my financial future in case of a divorce. I'm starting to question everything after his hesitation, especially regarding the infidelity clause. Am I wrong in this? Not the idiot. This is bizarre to me. A prenup is like insurance to protect the assets you had before the relationship. Would you not buy fire insurance because you never plan on having a fire? The prenup is an insurance you hope never to need, but are glad to have if you do. I learned the hard way. The person you marry is not the same person you divorce. I didn't have many assets, but I had my bills paid on time and savings in the bank. He wiped me out and took everything that wasn't nailed down. I left with the clothes on my back and a few things he didn't want that weren't worth monetary value, like our wedding album. He, on the other hand, came into the relationship with tens of thousands of dollars of debt. He borrowed money he didn't ask or even consult me about to keep up with the Joneses, tanked my credit, and then expected me to help him pay off his debts. After taking everything that could be sold, and then he cut contact when my lawyer mentioned child support. He lived in another country, so while I couldn't be forced to pay for his debts, neither could his check be garnished for child support. OP, you need to understand this. People change, and so can their dedication to a relationship. You should stick with the prenuptial agreement. If fiancé can't accept it, oh well for him. I, female 25, have an older sister, 28. We're both married. My husband is 28, and hers is male, 29-ish. She married her husband while I was in college, right around when I met my husband 5 years ago. We actually attended her wedding together. My sister's a stay-at-home mom, and her husband works in finance. As I said, my husband, whom I met in college, is now an attorney, and I'm a forensic scientist. I work on crime cases. All of that to say that my husband and I are well off financially, while I know that my sister struggles a bit, especially these days. Well, a few days ago, my sister asked me if I could watch her children for the night while she and her husband had a date night. I said, of course. My husband and I often watch our nieces, 3 girls, 1 a set of twins, preschoolers and a pretween, and we even have set up bunk beds for them in our guest room, and we look forward to watching them. My husband and I are undecided if we want kids of our own, but we just love those girls so much, and they're 90% of the reason we lean towards yes. Well, when my sister came to drop the girls off, she came inside for a few minutes. My husband took the girls to the kitchen for a snack, and my sister insisted on sitting down and talking to me. She then told me that the date night was supposed to be a rekindling of the flame date, and that her husband recently had not been the same. She said he's been unattentive, rude, mean, and just not the man she married. She proceeded to tell me how she wanted to get a divorce from him, but couldn't because she had 3 kids, no job, no skills, and no degree from college. I told her I was really sorry to hear about this and hoped she could work it out with her husband. She said she didn't think that was going to happen. I told her then that she shouldn't worry about the kids if she did get a divorce from him, because my husband and I could help her with the kids. She proceeded to get mad and tell me that childcare is so much money that she could never afford it while doing the menial jobs that she would be able to do. I told her not to worry about the cost of childcare if she could make it until next year-ish, because the twins go to school next year, and that I could pick them up and drop them off if necessary. My job has flexible hours. She sort of backed off then and just nodded and left. Well, today, I got a few angry texts from her, calling me a witch, selfish, self-absorbed, and a spoiled brat. She says I'm a horrible sister for not offering her money or more help because I have so much of it. I reminded her that, no, I'm not rich, but my husband and I have good jobs and no kids. I reminded her about all the help I'd be willing to give for the girls and told her, honestly, my money wasn't just a free-for-all and that I'd have to talk about it with my husband anyway. She didn't want to hear any of it. According to her, I'm being a horrible sister, a spoiled brat, and unreasonable. So, am I the idiot? Oh boy, wow. Is it just me? Or does being insulted and called names make anyone more likely to help out? Not the idiot. No one is entitled to your money, especially not when you're already giving them free childcare. I would tell your sister that you and your husband won't be able to offer assistance until she makes a sincere apology. You're a selfish, self-absorbed, horrible sister for looking after my children, which I chose to have, while I went on a date night with my husband. I can't believe you're such a spoiled brat that you offer to drop off and pick up my kids every day to and from school, even though they're not remotely your responsibility. I just want money. Why? This woman needs a reality check and a high five in the face with a chair. Oh, it sounds like she was hoping you would pay for her to be a stay-at-home mom still. Beware of her trying to move in next. If she does, put her in the same room with the 3 girls. Make it slightly uncomfortable so she'll be inspired to get it together. Also, Sis's husband is in finance. He should be able to afford alimony and child support. Your sister made her bed, and now she wants you to crawl in with her. Do not give her any money. If you do, the demands will never end. My 58 female, son 42, was born while I was still a high school student. I wasn't ready to be a parent and instead put him up for an open adoption. The little family that adopted him would send me birthday and holiday cards, but that was as much as I was involved. I was terrified. The baby was diagnosed with some issue with the nerve in his eye and was blind from it. I felt like I had done something wrong or caused it. I also felt so relieved I got to move on and live my life. I went to college, I built a career, all the while feeling this immense relief when this family would write me to tell me about his first Braille typewriter or whatnot, that I didn't have to deal with this. And then I've always felt guilty for being relieved. I'm now married and have 2 daughters, 32 and 38, with my husband. They've always known I had another child who was adopted. My daughters have always been interested in fostering this connection. I've always suggested we leave him alone to live his life. Without my knowing, my oldest sought him out on Facebook, of all places. Through her, she's brought him to be involved with the family for the past few years. While they may have had an instant connection, I feel embarrassed to say that I just haven't. I'm happy to know that he's doing well in life. He's getting married this spring, and he has a doctoral degree in physics. It's all very nice to be proud of, but it's like learning about a stranger. I certainly don't feel like his mother. This Thanksgiving we hosted. All 3 of my children were present. My son follows a guide dog to get around, but he often takes off the harness and lets the dog play with the other family dogs when he's over. That day was much the same. I gave the dog some scraps and didn't think anything more of it. Several days later, it turns out his dog was at the emergency vet hospital and had some issues with maybe its pancreas and also a possible bone trapped in its intestine. They decided to take the dog to surgery to search for it and have it removed. My daughter immediately asked if I had given the dogs anything and was furious with me for giving them table scraps. She's adamant that I caused this issue and I should be offering to pay. I did reach out to my son to offer to pay. He said that that was kind, but he had it covered. I told him I didn't want him to worry financially because I knew it could be challenging for him to keep employment given his condition. All he said was he has pet health insurance, so after the deductible, he only pays 10%, and he's completely capable of paying for it. We left it at that. My daughter's still now refusing to bring her dogs to my home, calling me irresponsible. She blames me and feels I never take responsibility for the harm I cause, but I cannot pay if she refuses to take my money. OP, if you didn't check what table scraps you were giving the dogs, and it was dangerous to the dogs, you should be counting your lucky stars. You're not paying vet bills for 3 dogs. You are the idiot. I'm on your daughter's side. As a side note, you also seem a little resentful that your daughter reached out to her half-brother. You're not obligated to have a relationship with your son, but your children have a right to form a relationship with their brother if they'd like. Not to mention, it feels like she looks down on him for being blind. I don't know. OP just has a bad vibe. Because I know it can be hard for him to keep employment given his condition. Yeah, the dude has a PhD in physics. I can't even imagine learning that while being blind. I think he's more than capable. I was just doing my thing, doing something with other people's animals without asking, causing damage, and I don't even like my son. Why is everyone mad at me? Vibe. Yuck. The dude is lucky to be adopted by his little family. Poor little OP. Everyone is ganging up on her. I, 27 female, got into a fight with my roommate, 24 female, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong here. 2 weeks ago, I decided to cut back on junk food and fast food and start losing weight. It became our habit for her to invite her friends over on Saturdays and order pizza. For the 2nd week in a row, I said no when she asked why. I kept things to myself for the most part, so she wasn't aware of it. So I told her that I was trying to lose weight and get healthy. She said I was skinny and didn't need to lose weight. I said I was fat and owning up to that. Then she got mad, looked like she was about to cry, and asked, "What am I then?" I just told her that her body is her prerogative and not mine to comment on, and that if she was happy with herself, that's all that mattered. Generic response, really, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't mean to offend anyone or attack her size. I don't care what other people do with their bodies or judge anyone on their size. I'd understand her annoyance and offense to what I said if I were skinny and calling myself fat in front of her, but I'm not. Part of losing weight to me is owning up to size and not sugarcoating it with words like chubby or plus-sized. So, am I the idiot? What am I then? Brenda, you're fatter. As a fellow fat person, you're not the idiot, and your roommate needs to stop acting like everything you do for your health is about her. She's not the main character in your life. You were speaking about yourself and your own health needs. Yeah, what the heck are people saying? Because you're smaller, you shouldn't use the word fat? Who can use the word fat then? Because there's always someone fatter. If someone is talking about oneself, stop making it about you. I don't care about the weight of others. I'm not them. I only care about retaining a good quality of life and not ending up with my joints packing up at a young age. OP, you did nothing wrong. That girl triggered herself.